The midday sun scorched Redridge's main street, turning the wooden boards of the storefronts into glowing embers and casting long shadows across the dusty thoroughfare. Clara Bellamy, a determined woman of 30, crouched protectively over her father, Amos, who was nearly 70 and trembling under the blows of the angry townsfolk. Their once quiet street had transformed into a scene of chaos and brutality. "You think you can lie your way out of this?" barked Jed Carroll, the blacksmith's burly son, his fists raised and a cruel sneer stretching across his sunburned face. "You and your old man have been stealing from honest people for too long." Clara's eyes blazed with defiance. Her voice, though strained from shouting, carried a sharp edge that demanded attention. "We've done nothing wrong. Stop this at once." She shielded Amos with her own body, taking the blows meant for him, feeling each impact reverberate through her ribs. Her father groaned, coughing blood, but he made no move to fight back. He had taught her that courage sometimes meant standing firm, even when your body trembles. The townspeople circled them, fists swinging, boots stomping the dirt like drums of war. Men and women alike threw accusations and insults, emboldened by the group's collective rage. Their words were venom, their blows a twisted performance of mob justice. Clara's heart pounded as fear clawed at her mind, yet a stubborn spark of defiance refused to die. She wouldn't let her father fall alone. Then, from the edge of the street, a new presence arrived, and the air seemed to shift with it. A tall figure emerged from the haze of dust, silent yet commanding. He was an Apache warrior, his broad shoulders covered in the faint glow of the sun, his long black hair flowing over the edges of his leather and tribal ornaments. His skin, weathered by the wind and sun, seemed carved from the earth itself, and his dark eyes burned with a mixture of shock and contained fury. Clara froze for a brief moment. She had heard stories of warriors who roamed the frontier, fierce and untamed, but she had never imagined one would appear at the exact moment when her life, and her father's, was hanging by a thread. His gaze swept over the chaos, resting on her with a recognition that neither time nor distance had dulled. There was disbelief there, raw and potent, as if he had stumbled into a nightmare he had once feared. Enough. The warrior's voice cut through the tumult like a whip of ice. The single word, sharp and unyielding, echoed against the wooden facades. The mob hesitated, unsure how to confront a figure so imposing, so otherworldly. The sun glinted off the beads and feathers in his hair, giving him an almost spectral presence, half man, half avenger. Clara instinctively pressed closer to her father, sensing the strange hope that surged like wildfire in her chest. Amos, coughing and pale, looked up with wide, grateful eyes. He had lived a life of hardship and quiet resilience, but even he could not recall a moment when the impossible seemed so near. "You will leave them," the warrior repeated, his voice firmer now, resonating with the weight of authority. Every man, woman, and child in the street instinctively took a step back. Fear flickered across their faces as if they had seen death itself embodied in this lone figure. Clara felt a tremor of disbelief. After all the abuse, all the whispered rumors and sneers, salvation had come in the form of a stranger, someone whose life seemed so entwined with some secret past she could not yet understand. And yet, the questions in his eyes were unspoken but clear. Why here? Why now? Why are they suffering at this exact moment? And how does this connect to the man he once knew? The crowd's bravado collapsed, leaving only murmurs and retreating steps. Boots stirred the dirt, leaving swirling clouds that caught the harsh sunlight. Clara's hair clung to her damp forehead as she helped her father stand, the weight of exhaustion and fear pressing down on her. Yet she felt a flicker of strength. Someone had appeared, someone untamed and resolute, who would not allow them to be crushed beneath the cruelty of their neighbors. The Apache's eyes never left her face. In them, Clara glimpsed more than shock. There was recognition, worry, and an unspoken promise that he had arrived not by chance, but for a purpose deeper than she could yet comprehend. The air hung heavy with tension, the dust swirling like a veil over the unknown fate that had just begun to unfold. For Clara and Amos, the streets of Redridge were no longer just a place of humiliation and pain. They had become the threshold of something far greater, something dangerous, mysterious, and perhaps redemptive. The Apache warrior's presence marked the beginning of a storm that neither the town nor they would ever forget, and deep in her chest, Clara felt the first tremors of hope. The dust hung thick over Redridge's main street, stirred by the scattered footsteps of retreating townsfolk. The clang of hooves and the murmur of unsettled voices faded as the mob finally realized they could not challenge the presence of Tayen, the Apache warrior. His dark eyes never left Clara's face, and every movement he made exuded power and controlled rage. Clara knelt beside her father, helping him to steady himself against the heat and pain. Amos coughed, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth, but his gaze lifted to Tayen with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Who is he, Clara?" he asked weakly, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Clara whispered, her mind still reeling from the sudden arrival. "But he stopped them. He saved us." Tayen stepped closer, his bare, muscular chest gleaming with sweat in the harsh sunlight. The tribal beads around his neck clinked softly with each movement, and his long black hair swayed like a dark banner in the wind. He looked at the townspeople with cold, unwavering eyes, a predator assessing prey, yet he spoke not a word to them. Instead, his gaze returned to Clara and Amos, and there was something deeper there, a silent question that seemed almost tangible. Clara felt it, though she could not name it. She had seen men before, dangerous men, even deadly ones, but Tayen was different. His presence was not only fearsome, it was piercing, as if he could see into the very fabric of her soul. "Sir," she began hesitantly, Are you here to help us?" Tayen's expression softened slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing his sharp features. He knelt on one knee to bring himself closer to their level, the muscles in his arms flexing as he rested his hand on the dusty ground for balance. I am," he said, his voice low and commanding, yet tinged with something unreadable shock, perhaps, or disbelief. You are Clara Bellamy?" Clara blinked in astonishment. "Yes, how do you?" Tayen shook his head, running a hand through his long hair. "No time. Not here." His gaze flicked toward the dispersed townsfolk, now whispering amongst themselves and keeping their distance. "They are dangerous, but you are in danger far greater than you realize." Amos coughed again, but he straightened, drawing on the strength of a lifetime of perseverance. "And you are?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "You've come out of nowhere, stopping men who would have beaten us to death." "Why?" Tayen's eyes darkened, a storm building behind them. "Because I should have been here sooner. Because I know this pain. Because the past has led me to this moment." His voice was heavy with unspoken history, and Clara felt a shiver of fear mixed with curiosity. What past? What connection could this warrior have with her or with her father? The street seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind paused, dust settling in a delicate haze around them. Clara's hands trembled slightly as she looked up at Tayen. "Please, help us," she said, voice firm despite the lingering fear. "We don't know why the townspeople are attacking us, but we can't fight them alone." Tayen nodded once, sharply, his eyes scanning the horizon. "You will not have to fight alone," he said, "but you must trust me completely. One wrong move, and they will come for you again, and next time it may not be just fists." Clara's stomach twisted with the weight of his words. The townsfolk, though cowed for the moment, were not gone from their minds or from Redridge. She looked at her father, whose pale face reflected both pain and hope. "We trust you," she said, her voice unwavering. "Whatever you ask, we will follow." Tayen studied them for a long moment, then rose to his full height, the sunlight glinting off the beads and feathers that adorned him. His presence seemed to magnify, his shadow stretching across the dust-strewn street like a warning. "Then listen carefully," he said, voice low and deliberate. "The violence you have endured, it is only the beginning. There are secrets in this town, secrets that tie your family, and perhaps even your life, to something far older, far darker. If you survive, it will not be by chance, but by courage and knowledge you do not yet possess." Clara swallowed hard, a chill creeping down her spine despite the blistering heat. She had survived danger before, but Tayen's words hinted at a storm she could neither fight nor fully understand. Yet, in the depths of her heart, she felt a strange sense of destiny, as if every step she had taken in life had led to this exact moment. And as the last of the townspeople slunk away, murmuring among themselves, Clara, Amos, and Tayen stood together in the sun-drenched street. For the first time, Clara sensed that salvation had arrived not merely in the form of strength, but in the presence of a man whose past, whose fury, and whose secrets might determine not just her life, but the fate of Redridge itself. The street of Redridge was quiet now, the retreating townspeople disappearing behind the sun-bleached wooden buildings. Clara Bellamy and her father Amos stood close together, their breaths ragged, as Tayen, the muscular, shirtless Apache warrior, kept a sharp watch over them. The momentary safety felt fragile, like the calm before a storm, and Clara's instincts screamed that their trials were far from over. "Father? Who is he, really?" Clara asked softly, her voice still trembling from adrenaline. He knew my name." "How?" Amos shook his head slowly, eyes narrowing. "I don't know, Clara, but there's something about him. Something ancient, like he's tied to us in ways I can't explain." He leaned on his daughter for support, every step a reminder of his frailty. "We survived the mob today, but I fear it's only the beginning." Tayen's dark eyes swept the street again, scanning the edges of town where shadows gathered beneath the eaves. "They will not stop," he said in a low, measured voice. "Not until they uncover the truth about your family. And that truth is dangerous, even to me." His words carried weight, a warning cloaked in mystery, and Clara felt a chill despite the relentless sun. "What truth?" she demanded, gripping her father's arm tightly. "What do you mean?" Tayen's gaze softened, yet the storm of his emotions was barely contained. "Long ago, your family, your ancestors, kept a secret buried in Redridge, a secret some would kill to possess. I swore to protect it, and now it is your turn." His words were cryptic, almost a riddle, but they stirred something deep within Clara, a sense of purpose, of legacy, and of danger intertwined. Amos coughed, steadying himself against a post. "Clara, I never wanted you involved in this. But Tayen, he speaks truth. There are things I hid from you to keep you safe, but Redridge has changed. The past has caught up with us." Clara's mind raced. Her life had been simple, quiet even, in the small frontier town, and yet now it felt like the ground beneath her was shifting, revealing cracks and hidden chasms she could no longer ignore. "Then we need to know," she said firmly. "We need to understand. Whatever danger awaits, we face it together." Tayen stepped closer, the sunlight glinting off the beads and feathers in his hair. His bare chest and powerful frame radiated raw strength, yet his eyes were troubled. "We do not have time for hesitation. The townspeople, they are not merely angry. They are pawns manipulated by someone who fears what your family knows. And that someone will not hesitate to use violence again. They will come tonight or sooner. Clara's stomach tightened. Tonight? But where will we go? How can we? Tayen cut her off, his voice calm but forceful. We move now. There is a safe place, hidden from eyes that would harm you. A place where the past and present converge, where you may learn what you must to survive. But you must trust me completely. Your life and your father's depends on it. Amos nodded weakly, placing a hand on Clara's shoulder. She's right, Tayen. We will follow you, even if it leads into the unknown. The warrior's expression softened fractionally, a flicker of relief and gratitude crossing his features. Good. There is a trail behind the old mill, he said, pointing toward the edge of town. It leads to the canyon. Few have seen it, and fewer dare enter. There, you will be safe. For now. Clara glanced at her father, then at Tayen, the enormity of their situation settling like a stone in her chest. The townspeople had attacked them without reason, or so it seemed, but now she understood that the roots of this violence ran deeper, entangled with secrets that had lingered for generations. And Tayen, with his shock, his strength, and his silent fury, was their only hope of navigating the danger that awaited. Together, the trio moved cautiously through Redridge's back alleys, the afternoon sun casting long, dramatic shadows behind them. Clara's heart pounded not with fear alone, but with anticipation, a strange mixture of dread and hope. Whatever waited at the canyon, she knew it would reveal truths she had never imagined, truths that might change her life forever. And as the town's dusty streets fell behind them, Tayen's eyes remained fixed on the horizon. He knew that the night would bring trials, that the forces chasing Clara and Amos were relentless, and that the secrets of Redridge, long buried and carefully hidden, were stirring, awakening with a danger that none of them could yet control. The silence between them was heavy but purposeful. In the shadows of the old western town, Clara felt the weight of destiny pressing down on her shoulders, and for the first time, she realized that survival was only the beginning. The narrow trail behind the old mill was barely visible beneath the thick overgrowth, but Tayen moved with the confidence of a man who had walked these lands countless times. Each step was deliberate, his bare feet pressing into the earth without sound. Clara Bellamy clutched her father's arm as they followed, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. Amos leaned heavily on her, each step slow and painful, yet his spirit remained unbroken. "Are you sure this path is safe?" Clara asked, glancing nervously at the shadows that stretched across the wilderness. Her voice wavered slightly, though she tried to keep it steady. Tayen's dark eyes swept over the dense forest surrounding them. "Safe enough for now," he said. His voice was calm, measured, but there was a weight behind it, an unspoken warning. Beyond the canyon, danger hides in forms you cannot yet imagine. You must trust me completely. Clara nodded, swallowing hard. "I trust you," she said. It was a truth she felt in her bones, even though every instinct screamed caution. Tayen had saved them once, and she knew that in this wild frontier, survival often depended on courage and on the strength of allies who appeared when least expected. The path grew narrower, and the air thickened with the scent of damp earth and pine. Sunlight pierced the canopy in scattered beams, illuminating the way forward like a silent guide. Birds scattered in startled flocks, their cries echoing through the canyon walls. Clara's pulse quickened. She had walked many paths in Redridge, but none had felt so alive, so dangerous, and so impossibly connected to her own family's past. Tayen paused abruptly, placing a hand on a jagged rock for balance. His muscles tensed, his long black hair falling across his face as he scanned the surroundings. "We are close," he said quietly. "The canyon's entrance is just ahead. Once inside, the secrets of your family will begin to reveal themselves." Amos coughed, wheezing slightly, but he straightened his back with stubborn determination. "Clara, whatever awaits us, remember, We face it together, he said, gripping her hand. His voice carried a quiet strength that bolstered her courage. Finally, they emerged into a small clearing, the trail ending at a steep drop that revealed the hidden canyon below. The walls of rock were jagged and imposing, and a narrow ledge carved into the cliffside led down into shadow. A small stream trickled at the canyon's base, glinting in the sunlight like a silver ribbon. The place felt ancient, as if untouched for generations, and Clara could sense the weight of history pressing down around them. Tayen stepped to the edge and looked down at the ledge. "This path is treacherous," he said, "but it is the only way to remain unseen. Once we reach the bottom, you will understand why your family's past was hidden and why others would kill to uncover it." Clara swallowed, her throat dry, but she nodded. "We'll do it, whatever it takes." One by one, Tayen led them down the narrow rock ledge, his powerful arm steadying Amos and Clara. Each step was a careful negotiation with gravity. The canyon walls close enough to feel the cool shadow of rock against their skin. Clara's mind raced with questions. Why had Tayen known her name? Why had he seemed shocked at the sight of her? And what secret lay hidden here that could put them all in danger? As they reached the bottom, the canyon widened, revealing a hidden grove where the stream widened into a small pool. The air was cooler here, carrying the scent of water and earth, a stark contrast to the harsh sunlight above. Tayen led them to a rocky overhang that formed a natural shelter. "Here," he said, his voice softer now. "This is safe for now. Rest, drink from the stream. And tomorrow, we begin uncovering what has been hidden from your family for generations." Clara knelt beside the pool, cupping water in her hands. She glanced at Tayen, the muscular, shirtless warrior whose eyes never left hers, and felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. There was so much about him she did not understand, yet she knew instinctively that he was the key to surviving what lay ahead. Amos sat heavily against the rock wall, exhaustion pulling at his body, yet his eyes were sharp. "Clara," he said softly, "whatever we find here, we must be ready. The town, the people who attacked us, they are only the beginning. The truth of our family, it will demand courage like we've never known." Clara nodded, her fingers brushing the cool water, her heart heavy with anticipation. The canyon was silent now, save for the gentle trickle of the stream. But in that stillness she could feel it, the weight of history, the pulse of danger, and the sense that the real trials were only beginning. And Tayen, standing watch over them, let his eyes sweep the canyon's entrance. He knew the night would bring more than shadows, it would bring revelations, and perhaps the first confrontation with those who would stop at nothing to claim the Bellamy legacy. The hidden canyon was quiet, almost eerily so, except for the gentle babble of the stream winding its way through the rocky floor. Clara Bellamy knelt beside the water, cupping it in her hands, letting the cool liquid soothe her aching muscles. Her father, Amos, leaned heavily against a rock, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Tayen stood a few steps away, muscular frame silhouetted against the canyon walls, eyes scanning every shadow as if anticipating unseen threats. "This place. It feels alive," Clara whispered, glancing around the grove. "Like it's watching us." Tayen's dark eyes flicked to her, thoughtful. "It is alive," he said quietly. "Every stone, every tree, every stream carries the memory of those who came before. Your family has walked this land for generations, and it has kept its secrets carefully. Until now?" Clara frowned. "Secrets? Tayen? You said the townspeople attacked us because of some secret. What is it? Why now?" Tayen's gaze darkened, a flicker of sadness and warning crossing his face. "Some things are meant to be discovered only when the time is right. Your family, your ancestors protected something of great value, something that others would kill to possess. The Bellamy legacy is more than land or wealth. It is knowledge, power that can change the balance in this region, and it has been hidden here in Redridge for generations. Amos coughed, wincing from the movement. I always feared this day would come, he admitted, his voice low. We tried to live simple lives, Clara. I never told you because I wanted to shield you from the danger. But the past, it never stays buried. Clara's eyes widened. So the attack wasn't random. The town? It's involved in this somehow? Tayen nodded gravely. Not the town itself, but some who seek what your family has protected. And they are clever. They hide behind the law, behind fear. They use the weak and the gullible to do their bidding. That is why your life and your father's was threatened today. Clara shivered, gripping her father's hand tightly. And what about us? What are we supposed to do? Tayen's expression softened slightly as he stepped closer. Survive, learn, protect, and perhaps uncover the truth in a way that no one else can. I have been sent to guide you, but the journey will not be easy. There are those who will come, and they will not stop until they have taken what your family has safeguarded for centuries. A sudden rustle in the trees made Clara jump. Tayen's eyes snapped toward the sound, his body tensing like a coiled spring. The shadows shifted, but there was nothing visible. He relaxed slightly but did not take his gaze off the edge of the canyon. You see? He murmured. They are always watching. We must remain vigilant. Amos shook his head, pale but resolute. I may be old, Clara, but I won't let them harm you. Not after today. Clara's heart tightened. She had always admired her father's quiet strength, but seeing him so vulnerable yet determined to protect her made her own courage ignite. We'll face this together, Tayen, she said firmly. Father and I. We'll do whatever it takes. Tayen studied them both, a flicker of emotion crossing his face, respect, concern, and something else Clara could not name. Good, he said at last. Because the next step, the one that will reveal the first piece of your family's secret, lies beyond the canyon. There is a passage beneath the waterfall. Few have survived the path, but it is the only way to begin understanding what you are protecting. Clara felt her pulse quicken. The canyon had already tested them, and yet the journey was far from over. She glanced at her father, whose pale eyes met hers with unwavering trust. We'll go, she said softly. We have no choice, and yet, I feel like this is where we were meant to be. Tayen nodded, muscles rippling as he began leading the way toward the waterfall at the far edge of the canyon. His bare chest gleamed with sweat, tribal jewelry catching the sunlight, and his dark eyes never left the path ahead. Clara followed with Amos, stepping carefully over rocks and roots, every instinct alert. The sound of rushing water grew louder as they approached the waterfall, and the mist cooled their heated faces. Behind the veil of water, a dark, hidden passage yawned like the mouth of some ancient guardian. Tayen paused, looking back at them, and in that brief moment, Clara understood the magnitude of what lay ahead, the past, the present, and perhaps even the future of her family rested in the shadowed tunnel before them. And as Tayen stepped forward into the darkness, the air thick with mist and mystery, Clara felt the first real tremor of fear and anticipation, knowing that once they entered, there would be no turning back. The roar of the waterfall filled the canyon, mingling with the hiss of mist as Clara Bellamy, Amos, and Tayen approached the hidden passage behind it. Water cascaded in a silvery curtain, yet through the veil, a narrow, rocky tunnel yawned like the mouth of some ancient beast. The air was damp, cool, and carried the scent of moss and stone. Clara shivered, partly from the chill and partly from anticipation. Tayen stepped forward first, his muscular, shirtless form glistening with mist. Tribal jewelry clinked softly with each movement, beaded necklaces, armbands and feathers in his long black hair catching the weak sunlight filtering through the water. His dark eyes scanned the shadows, alert to every movement, every whisper of sound in the canyon. Clara felt a surge of confidence seeing him lead the way. He was strength incarnate, and yet there was a tension in his gaze that made her uneasy. "Stay close," Tayen murmured. "The path is treacherous. One wrong step and you could fall, or worse." Amos shuffled after Clara, his frail frame trembling. "I don't know how much further I can go," he admitted, coughing lightly, though his voice was resolute. "But we have to. I will not let them take what is ours." Clara's grip tightened on his arm. "We'll make it, Father. We have Tayen. He won't let anything happen to us." The tunnel narrowed as they proceeded, jagged rocks scraping against their clothing and skin. Water dripped from the ceiling, pooling in places where the uneven ground threatened to make each step a trap. The canyon seemed to close in around them, shadows stretching and twisting like living things. Clara's heart pounded with every cautious footstep. Each echo of water against stone sounded like the whispers of the past, murmuring secrets she was only beginning to understand. Tayen paused midway through the passage, turning to face them. "Listen," he said in a low voice, almost reverent. "This place, it remembers. The stones, the water, the air itself. Your ancestors carved protections here, signs that few can read. The secret your family guards. It is here, hidden not just in plain sight, but in the very bones of the canyon." Clara glanced at him, eyes wide. "Protections? Signs? Tayen. I don't understand. What exactly are we looking for?" Tayen's expression darkened, shadows flickering across his face. "Understanding comes with patience and courage. Some knowledge is dangerous. Some power, deadly. But you must see it for yourselves to survive what is coming. The townspeople who attacked you, they will not give up. And those who sent them, they have no mercy." Amos coughed, wheezing slightly, but his eyes were sharp with determination. "Clara, whatever we find, we must honor it, and we must protect it. Our family's legacy. It is bigger than fear, bigger than the town." Clara nodded, her jaw set with resolve. "I understand, Father. We can't turn back now." Tayen led them further into the tunnel until the sound of the waterfall was reduced to a dull roar, replaced by the silence of the stone chamber ahead. The passage opened into a cavern, its walls etched with ancient markings and faint carvings that glowed faintly in the dim light filtering through cracks in the rock above. The air was cooler here, carrying the weight of centuries. Clara felt an almost electric tension, as if the very walls were watching them, testing their worthiness. "There," Tayen said, pointing to a carved stone door embedded into the cavern wall. "This is the entrance to what your family has protected for generations. Inside, you will find the first truth, the beginning of the legacy that has made you a target." Clara stepped forward, eyes scanning the carvings. Strange symbols twisted across the rock, and she felt a strange pull, a connection she could not explain. It's beautiful," she whispered, "but also terrifying." Tayen's gaze softened as he watched her. "Courage will guide you," he said. "Fear will not. Once you step through, the past and present will collide. And the choices you make will determine everything. Are you ready?" Clara glanced at her father, whose nod was firm despite his weakness. "We are ready," she said, voice steady. Tayen stepped aside, and together they approached the stone door, hearts pounding with anticipation and dread. The hidden passage behind the waterfall had led them here to the heart of their family's legacy, to a place where danger, history, and destiny waited in equal measure. And as the shadows of the canyon stretched across the cavern floor, Clara understood that their lives would never be the same. The cavern was silent, save for the faint drip of water echoing from the stone walls. Clara Bellamy's eyes traced the carvings etched deep into the rock, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Each symbol seemed to pulse with history, telling stories older than Redridge itself. She felt both awe and fear, the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her shoulders. Tayen, the muscular, shirtless Apache warrior, stood nearby, his long black hair falling over his shoulders, tribal jewelry glinting faintly in the dim light. His intense eyes scanned every shadow, alert to the unseen dangers that had haunted the Bellamys for generations. Yet there was a calmness in his presence, a protective aura that gave Clara and Amos the courage to move forward. "This is it," Tayen said softly. "What your family protected. It lies behind this door." He gestured to a carved stone panel, almost invisible except for the subtle etchings that matched the symbols on the cavern walls. "Inside you will find the knowledge and artifacts that your ancestors kept safe. But know this: once revealed, the world will see it too. You must be ready for what comes next." Amos stepped forward cautiously, his frail hands brushing over the carved surface. "All these years? I feared it would be lost forever," he whispered. "Clara, your great-grandfather and all who came before, they trusted us to protect this." Clara placed a hand over her father's. "We will honor them, Father. Whatever is behind this door, we will keep it safe and use it wisely." Her voice was steady now, carrying the resolve of someone who had faced danger, fear, and betrayal, and survived. Tayen nodded, then pushed the stone panel aside. A hidden chamber was revealed, bathed in the soft glow of sunlight filtering through a narrow opening above. Inside, ancient scrolls, artifacts, and objects of power lay carefully arranged, untouched for decades. The air smelled of old parchment, stone, and something almost alive. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. This was more than treasure. It was history, knowledge, and the essence of her family's courage and wisdom. She stepped inside, letting Amos follow, while Tayen remained at the entrance, ever vigilant. Clara's fingers traced the scrolls and relics, absorbing the weight of generations. This explains everything," she whispered. "The townspeople, the attacks. They wanted this knowledge. They feared it." Tayen's gaze softened, and for the first time, Clara saw a hint of vulnerability in the fierce warrior. "They will come again," he warned. "But now you understand the importance of what you protect. And you are not alone. I am here, and you have your father. Together you can defend it." Amos looked around the chamber, awe and pride filling his features. "Clara, we survived because of courage and trust. And because Tayen appeared when we needed him most. I don't know how to thank him enough." Clara turned to Tayen, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You saved us, Tayen, and you brought us here to the truth. I don't know how we could have survived without you." Tayen shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "I did what I had to. But remember, your family's courage brought you this far. I only guided you." His gaze swept over them, firm and protective. "The world outside may never understand the choices you've made or the knowledge you now hold. But that does not matter. What matters is that you have survived and the legacy endures." Clara and Amos exchanged a look, a mixture of relief, pride, and newfound understanding. They had faced the cruelty of their town, the violence of those who sought to destroy them, and the uncertainty of a mysterious warrior whose appearance had altered their fate. And now they had the power to protect their family's legacy, a secret that would remain guarded yet alive for generations to come. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the chamber, Clara felt a calm determination settle over her. They had endured fear, confrontation, and mystery, but in the end, courage, trust, and guidance had led them to the truth. Tayen stood at the entrance, a sentinel of strength and loyalty, and she knew that with him and her father by her side, no threat, no matter how powerful, could break them. And for the first time in weeks, Clara allowed herself to breathe freely. Knowing that Redridge's hidden secrets were safe, their family legacy preserved, and the bonds of trust between her father, and Tayen stronger than any challenge the Old West could throw at them. The waterfall outside continued its endless cascade, but inside the hidden cavern, the Bellamys had found more than safety, they had found their destiny.